Hi, my name is Angel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to do a little mid-year reading check-in. This is kind of a modified version of the mid-year freakout tag. I don't do all of the questions in that tag because I don't think that all of them pertain to me and what I want to discuss. And then I also just kind of like to use it as an opportunity to do a little check-in on my goals and go over some reading stats. So that is what we will be doing today. It is a very cloudy and rainy day today, so the lighting might be a little bit different from usual. I think it's fine, but if you notice a difference, that is why. So I want to start by looking at some stats. Here are my mid-year stats so far for 2026. I have read 72 books, which comes out to 13,716 pages and approximately 139 hours of audiobooks listened to so far. I am pre-filming this. I'm filming this a couple of weeks before it's going to go up because I am going on a 2-week international trip where I won't be filming or like posting in the moment. So this is just like based off of everything that I've read up until this point. It is the end of June. By the time this goes out, there will probably be like a couple more books that I've read that would change the stats a little bit, but whatever. It doesn't really matter all that much, you know what I mean? So my rating breakdown, luckily I have not had any books that I've rated 1 star. I have, however, had 4 books that fit into the either 2 or 2.5 star category. 33 books that were either 3 or 3.5 stars. I feel like that makes sense. Like that's just kind of an average rating. 24 books that were either 4 stars or 4.5 stars, and I've only had 5 5-star books, which makes me quite sad. Like that's not even enough for 1 book per month. I don't even know at this point if I will have a top 10 by the end of the year. I don't know, it's kind of strange. I have definitely had a weird reading year so far. I've been reading a lot less than I usually do. I think that's just because like I've been a little bit busier in my personal life and have had a few kind of stressful things that have been weighing on my mind and taking away some of my attention from reading. And also just I don't know, I feel like I'm kind of in a weird spot. Like I love creating videos and I love being on Booktube, but I am trying to focus more on creating things that I'm really passionate about rather than like just getting up a lot of videos and like reading things that I don't necessarily care about just because they would fit into a video, if that makes sense. Like I don't want to mold my reading around my booktube creation process. I want to mold my booktube creating around my reading process, if that makes sense. Like I just want to read what I want and I want to make what I want, and that has definitely been changing like with the amount that I've been reading, as well as, you know, some other external factors that are affecting that. But it is quite unfortunate that even though I'm reading less, that doesn't mean that I'm reading more books that I really am enjoying. I wish that I had more 5 stars to talk to you guys about today, but whatever. It is what it is. I still have, you know, a whole other 6 months. Hopefully I can get some really highly rated books by then. As far as how I've been reading, 20 books I've read physically, purely physically. 28 have been purely audio. 15 have been ebooks, and then 8 have been a mix. So that's typically if I'm like reading physically and then also listening to the audiobook and kind of going back and forth between that. Definitely a lot more audiobooks this year than I'm used to, which I feel like again makes sense with some of the busy things that I've had to do in my personal life. It just makes more sense for me a lot of days to have an audiobook going while I am getting something else done. Unfortunately, I feel like I just haven't had a lot of time to sit down and physically read, which does make me a little bit sad, but you know, we only go up from here, right? As far as genres this year, as always, I've read quite a broad range, but no surprise to anybody, my top genre does continue to be horror. I have read 31 horror books so far, followed by thriller, which I have 10 books, and then 9 fantasy books. So I am definitely been more in my fantasy era this year, that's for sure. So because I've been reading slower, I would say that I'm definitely a little bit behind on my reading goals so far. I'm not going to do a full check-in to every single reading goal that I set. I think I was very ambitious at the beginning of the year, and I just couldn't foresee that things would slow down for me once the year started up, which it did. So the main thing that I've really been focusing on is my 2026 TBR. I have 20 books that I want to read in 2026, and I designed this for 10 of them to be, I think, like a year or older, and then the other 10 new releases. So far out of those 20, I have only read 7. However, there are a couple that I do have coming in from the library soon, so those will be checked off probably, I would think, within the next month or so of when you guys are seeing this. But I am less than halfway through that TBR, and we are halfway through the year, so that's a little frightening. To get into some more of the general tag questions, of course the first one is, what is your best book of the year so far? So since I've only had 5 5-star reads, I'm just going to name all of them. The first one that I had this year was The Will of the Many by James Islington. This was fantastic. It was one of the first books that I read this year, and I absolutely loved it. If you haven't heard of this yet, this is a high fantasy book. We are following a young boy who goes to an academy on kind of a secret mission. This is a very, very political fantasy book, and I really, really enjoyed it the whole way through. It's like very fast paced, a lot of action, a lot of things developing, characters that I actually really, really enjoyed. All around, I really, really loved this book. My next 5-star after that one was The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow, which is like a romantic fantasy, but not, I would not call it a romantasy. It's just like a fantasy book that is primarily focused on romance, or so I guess it would be like a romance book that has fantasy elements in it, and also plays with time a little bit, which is what I really, really loved about that one. I also had a 5-star with Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, which is the most recent installment in the Hunger Games series world. This is Haymitch's backstory, if you don't already know that. I'm so excited to see this movie. I adored this book, and it gave me the same feelings that I had the first time I read the series, and it just brought back a lot of nostalgia and emotions, and I loved it so, so much. Just recently, I read this chunky book, House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski, the reading vlog. I will have a linked if you want to watch my movie where I go through everything about this book. This was an easy 5-star. I had a feeling it was going to be a 5-star, and it did live up to that expectation. I'm so, so happy about that. And then even more recently than that, within the last couple of days, I read The Caretaker by Marcus Cleaver. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. This is the author of We Used to Live Here, and this one is about a girl who takes a caretaking job for what she thinks is going to be caretaking for an elderly man. It turns out to be a little bit different from that, and it was very freaky, and I just absolutely loved it. I was obsessed and immersed the entire way through with that one. So out of those 5, if I had to choose a favorite right now, I think probably The Everlasting, because that one is constantly on my mind, and it's been quite a few months since I've read it, and it definitely sticks out the most, I think, out of all of these. Aside from House of Leaves, maybe, because like how do I forget about that book? I don't know. Like once you read it, it's with you forever. So one of those two is probably my top one so far. Best sequel of the year. I don't read a whole lot of series, and I definitely haven't read a lot of sequels so far. I actually only have 2 this year. Luckily they were both great, so I can talk about them. Sunrise on the Reaping, like I said, was a 5-star, part of the Hunger Games series. And then I'm also continuing my read through the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. The last one that I read, I think, was the 3rd one, the Dungeon Anarchist's Cookbook, and I gave that one 4.5 stars. So I would say definitely one of those was my best sequel so far this year. The next question is new release that you haven't read yet but you really want to. I have a few that really are kind of top of my priority list right now. The first one is Nothing Tastes as Good by Luke Dumas, I believe is the author's name. This one is on my 20 in 2026 TBR. I do have a library hold for this one, so I should be hopefully getting to it soon. Also, You Did Nothing Wrong by C.G. Drews. I am waiting for that hold to come through on Libby. And then also Mocha by Monica Kim is a highly anticipated one for me that I can't wait to read. Most anticipated read for the second half of the year, I think, is Meat Bees. I didn't write down the author's name, but I don't know, like something about that sounds so intriguing to me. I love the cover. I can't wait to get my hands on that. And then also a romance release, surprisingly, is called Yes, Chef. I don't even fully remember the plot or like why I added it to my TBR, but like I heard the synopsis somewhere, thought it sounded really good, put it on my TBR, and I am just really excited for it to come out, even though I can't remember what it's about. I think maybe I've just been like lacking in the romance department. I mean, that sounds really bad as far as reading, not in my personal life, but like as far as my bookish content and reading goes, I've been lacking in the romance department. Gosh, that just like came out sounding so bad. Okay, next is the biggest disappointment of the year. I have two books for this. These are both books that I went into fully expecting a 5-star read. The first one is Dead But Dreaming of Electric Sheep by Paul Tremblay. This was my #1 most anticipated book of the year. Paul Tremblay is one of my favorite authors. Horror Movie was my favorite book of the year when that one came out, so I had really high hopes for this. It's like a sci-fi horror blend that is commentary on AI, written by one of my favorite authors. I thought I was gonna have no problem loving this, and it didn't go quite to plan. I gave it 3 stars. I did have a spoiler-free reading vlog for this one as well. Of course, 3 stars is not a bad rating, and I would still recommend this book, but when you go into it thinking 100% it's gonna be a 5-star, and then it's not, it's quite disappointing. And also, along with that, I guess I do have it on my shelf so I can pull it off, is The Future Saints by Ashley Winstead, who previous to 2026 was one of my favorite authors. Unfortunately, she released 2 books in 2026, and I gave both of them 3 stars when I expected them to be 5 stars. This is about a band in California that's really struggling, has a lot of drama. The lead singer is dealing with a lot of grief. Again, one of my favorite authors, a topic I really enjoy. I thought this was going to be great. It was not. I'm probably going to unhaul that at some point, so let me know if you'd like to purchase it. Getting back into the positives, the biggest surprise that I had was definitely The Will of the Many. I was so intimidated to go into this book. I haven't been reading fantasy for very long, and I haven't been reading a lot of fantasy, so going into one this chunky that I knew was going to be very complex and high fantasy, I was scared, and I didn't know if I was gonna love it, but I decided to trust all of the raving reviews that I have seen for this, and it ended up working out very well, and I definitely did surprise myself with how invested I got into this as quickly as I did, and how much I really enjoyed it in the end. We just have a few more questions to get through. Favorite new author? I think so far the one that I definitely want to read more from is Margie Sarsfield. I hope I'm saying that correctly. She wrote Beta Vulgaris, which was a 4.5-star read for me. I read it for my summer ween readathon this year. I believe that was her first novel, and I really love the writing. I really love the character and just the weirdness of the story, so I'd be really curious to see what she does in the future, and I will definitely pick up whatever her next book is. And then also Premi Mohammed. I had previously read from this author. I read a short story collection that I was kind of just like okay on, but I picked up The Butcher of the Forest this year, and that was a 4.5-star read for me, and I absolutely loved it. And I know this author has so many other books. A few of them are actively on my TBR, so I'm definitely looking forward to reading more of, that was a child screaming, reading more of her stuff. I do have high hopes now going into those. Newest favorite character, I know like a lot of people are the type of reader that reads for the characters and has to feel strongly connected to them. I love feeling connected to characters, but it's not necessarily something that I feel like I really need all of that much, and I don't always seek to connect to characters like that and have characters that I remember forever and ever. So this is always a kind of like a tough one for me to answer, but I would say definitely, not to bring it up again, but the couple in The Everlasting. I loved reading their story, their journey together, and their love traveling across time was just so beautiful. But I also read Open Throat by Henry Hoke. I don't know if that's how you say the name, but this one is told through the perspective of a queer mountain lion, and I feel like that was a really, really interesting perspective to follow, and I really liked that book. So I would say that is kind of a standout character for me this year. A book that made you cry, not to get very repetitive, but The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. It was just a beautiful story, and it did make me tear up of sadness and also tear up of happiness. So, you know, it's my best book of the year, so I have to talk about it a bunch, right? As far as books that made me happy, this was really tricky for me to answer. I never know how to answer it because I don't like seek out books that are like feel-good reads and like happy reads. Like that's not really what I'm seeking as far as like my personal taste in reading. I really like bleak and depressing stuff, so not a lot of the books that I read make me feel happy. They make me feel happy in that like I love how fucked up they are, but that I feel like is not the purpose of the question. So the only answer that I could come up with for this question was Nine Goblins by T. Kingfisher, because that really is just like a silly cozy read that I feel like is hard to be not happy when you read that one. So that's my answer for that. And last but not least, what are my favorites in the booktube community at the moment? I really haven't been branching out a whole lot. I've been watching just kind of a lot of the regulars that I usually watch, so I don't have like a whole lot of people that I want to shout out. I will mention Alicia Runs and Reads. She just recently joined the book club that I'm part of, the Classic Scares Club here on Booktube. We read a classic horror book every quarter if you want to join us. And it's been great. I think she gives great reviews. I love her videos and seeing everything that she reads. We have really similar reading tastes, so I can always look forward to her reviews and trust her opinions with books. Also, while we're on that topic, you guys have definitely heard me talk about Brooklyn before on this channel. She's also part of the Classic Scares Club, but I just wanted to give her a little bit of a shout out because she did recently start a new channel called Brook Report, and she is still making like bookish videos but also branching out a little bit. So I just wanted to give her a shout out that if you didn't know, she does have a new channel. Definitely go and support her and show her some love. Other than that, the one that I've been watching a lot recently is Gavin from Gavin Reads It All. I have been subscribed to Gavin for a while and just kind of like a casual watcher, but recently, if you have seen any of the situation, any of the videos that he has posted recently about Joshua Evans, who was his YouTube manager for a short period of time, it's a really saddening and frustrating situation that he was put in, and I feel so bad that he had to deal with that. But watching like him talk about his experience really, I feel like, showcases just how much passion and love he has for what he does. And so I've been going through and kind of binging a lot of his older videos. A lot of his like haunted series is kind of what I've been watching a lot recently. I think it's such a fun concept. He goes to like haunted places and reads horror books, and then also does kind of like a silly, goofy paranormal investigation, and I've just been having a great time binging all of those videos and showing him some support after this horrible situation that he just went through. So that is everything that I wanted to talk about today, all of the questions I wanted to answer for the mid-year tag, and just do a little mid-year check-in with my goals and share my stats with you guys so far. If you have made it this far, let me know down below what was your favorite book of the year, and also what is your most anticipated book for the rest of the year. Answer those two questions for me down below because I'm curious and I like to see what you guys have to say. With all of that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you next time.